All right, it's Friday, August 7th, 2:40 in the afternoon. This morning I got up. I've got an old beater truck that I blew the exhaust gasket out on a couple days ago, so my plan was to work on that truck, replace the exhaust gasket today. Drinking my coffee in the morning, killing a little bit of time, I started browsing Twitter. And I stumbled upon this tweet by a woman named Aura Bogado. A-U-R-A is her first name, Bogado, B-O-G-A-D-O. Here's her tweet. The death toll in Haiti from Hurricane Matthew is 339. That's what environmental racism looks like. Black Lives Matter. Seriously? Environmental racism? Just in case you're wondering, or we're thinking that was a troll account, there's other people that are actually responding to her. This account, Femifisting, F-E-M-I-F-I-S-T-I-N-G, responds, and yet, sadly, some will claim weather can't be racist. Shaking my head. Black Lives Matter. These people friggin' insane. They're claiming a hurricane is racist. Okay, so I thought that was going to be the stupidest thing I would read, well, if not all day, probably all month. Sadly, I was wrong. Went out, did some work on the truck, got done, finished everything up, came in, got cleaned up, grabbed some food, sat down at the computer, turned it back on. And one of the first things to pop up was a article from the Washington Times. I'm going to read a couple of highlighted parts from this. I'll put a link in the description of the video for the whole article if you really want to read it. So let me just read this. The report released Wednesday in conjunction with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission critiques several widely used police hiring practices, noting that over-reliance on such criteria may limit certain underrepresented communities' representation in law enforcement agencies. Skipping a paragraph, criminal background checks done as a part of police departments' hiring processes are in quotes, likely to disproportionately impact racial minority applicants, the report states. The report acknowledges that police departments are, in quotes, undeniably justified in carefully vetting and investigating potential hires, end quote, through background checks, but it suggests that agencies should not automatically disqualify applicants who have used drugs or have a criminal record. Excluding applicants, this is in quotes, excluding applicants regardless of the nature of the underlying offense or how much time has passed since an offense occurred, without any consideration of whether the candidate has changed in the intervening period, can be a significant and unwarranted barrier, the report states. Requiring that officers be U.S. citizens, a must in many police agencies, can also be problematic. The report indicates such requirements, in quotes, may prevent a considerable number of racial and ethnic minorities, many of whom have valuable foreign language skills, from being hired by law enforcement agencies. It gets dumber. Other hiring processes, such as written or physical agility tests and the awarding of preference points for veterans, also were identified as practices that could create barriers for racial minorities and women. Are they fucking kidding? Yes, as a law enforcement agency, we don't want to hire criminals. As a law enforcement agency, we don't want to hire people who are in the country illegally. And as a law enforcement agency, we have enough problems as it is with getting people through the whole process when we're giving them tests to test for police aptitude, physical agility, just basic education. You want us to stop doing all this stuff? You guys are nuts. Have you ever heard of the Rampart Division in Los Angeles? If you're not familiar with it, look it up. Google Rampart scandal. It'll give you plenty of reading. Officers, LAPD in the early 90s was hit with a mandate that they had to hire more minorities. They lowered their hiring standards. They eliminated some of the things from their background check process, such as criminal and gang history, things like that. You ended up with the Rampart Division, which members of the LAPD at the time were active gang members. They were working in crack houses. They were robbing banks. They were, they were, there was even a couple of attempted murders. These are all cops that went through the hiring process with lowered standards. You want us to lower the standards again on a national level, you're going to end up with a national Rampart Division. The hiring standards are there for a reason. This is absolutely beyond me that anyone would suggest that we not look at someone's criminal history, that we not look at their whether they're here legally or not, and that we should lower the testing criteria just to get in the academy to begin the whole process. So I don't know what they're thinking. Based on everything else that's going on, I'm tending to think that they're trying to run local police departments into the ground so that it would, let me take my tinfoil hat off here or put it back on. To me, it seems that the left is trying to run local police departments, local law enforcement agencies into the ground so that they can justify doing their whole federal law enforcement agency that they've been pushing for so long. The one that Obama was talking about before he was ever even elected president back in 2008. He was talking about a federal police agency. So this is what they're pushing for. This is the only possible reason that I can see that they would make these suggestions. Anyway, that's my thought.